Okay.
No, I haven't printed off the. I haven't printed off the pod yet. Hang on 1 second.
What?
6 pages.
6? Oh, my God.
Hang on, here we go.
Going to be here forever.
No, we won't. Yeah. Spider plant's gone in the printer.
Are you all right?
Yeah, the spider plant's not.
You fell over?
No, one of the spider plant fronds has gone in the printer.
Yeah.
6 pages. One's got a bit of spider plant on it. I'm not happy with the quality of this, Daz.
Oh.
I don't know what to suggest. Do a bit of singing or something. Just keep speaking.
Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat's got a big black and...
Is what?
Molly Green and
Darren Rudge.
Alan, it's Molly and Darren.
Hello, Molly and Darren.
Hello,
How are
you recognise her?
I do.
Yeah, sure you do.
The Happy Garden.
Hello and welcome to Your Happy Garden podcast. We are back together again. My name is Molly Green and I'm back with my horticultural partner in crime. It's the gorgeous Darren Rudge. All right, Dazzler.
Hello. Did you have a wonderful time down at Chelsea?
I did have a wonderful time down at Chelsea, but there was a Darren Rudge-shaped hole in my day. You were missed.
Yeah, I'm ever so sorry. I was required elsewhere, Molly. I mean,
Because of the time of year, I'm suspecting it's all your RHS work, your teaching, you're so busy at the moment that you couldn't join me.
yeah, I'm catching myself coming backwards.
Oh, well, you were missed because you and I do ordinarily. We have done for many years, gone down together, but I represented both of us.
I bet you did. And I bet you did a wonderful job. Well, it looked like it. So.
Well, except for the incident.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You're good at nosediving into things, though, aren't you? Skips, BBC Gardeners World Live.
I like to go in head first. Well, yeah, let's just get that out of the way quickly because I've already talked quite a lot about face planting into the David Austin show display at Chelsea. Thank God that had already been judged. They didn't win gold despite me ruining their display. But it only just sort of occurred to me that your son works there. And I'd hope I'm not the talk of his workplace, that some old lady fell into the display.
Yeah, everybody knows.
It turns out it was me. Anyway, we'll be talking Chelsea a little bit later on. We're going to catch up with Stan and Vicky, who won gold. Good friends of the Happy Garden podcast, Craighouse Cacti. They scooped yet another gold. What are we doing with you today, Darren?
Well, I've got my money saving tip. I've got the last sow and grow. Okay, our little mini-series is coming to an end this week, and I'm going to concentrate on cucumbers and tomatoes, Molly. I've got jobs as well, jobs for the week ahead.
Grand. Looking forward to all that. What else are we doing? Andy Lound / Randy Lound, as we relabelled him a couple of weeks ago. From the history of the sexy strawberry to the history of the garden shed today on the podcast. It's really interesting, actually. Randy Lound was in the studio with me. I did a cover shift at local BBC radio, Daz, and he was in the studio yesterday, actually. He's gone on a World War II ration diet.
Okay.
No, he's really loving it. He's lost half a stone. He says he's mentally really sharp and enjoying his food. He's having to make his food. And he said, hasn't felt healthier. He's been on it about 3 weeks now. So really, really interesting what he's doing. And he bought a big strawberry into the studio and proceeded to eat it in front of me.
I bet it did.
I didn't know where to
In
look.
a very salacious way.
That's the word. We'll also be hearing from Paul Hetherington a little bit later on in the podcast.
Naughty man.
He is naughty. Paul's not naughty. Andy Land is naughty. Paul from Buglife is going to tell us what insects we're going to see in June. And really interestingly as well, we're going to be hearing from listener Karen, who is opening her garden for the very first time for NGS, the National Gardening Scheme, or National Garden Scheme, should I say. Her neighbour talked her into it, and she's bricking it. And it's really interesting. She's so frightened. You'll hear just how she's transformed her house since she moved in her garden. She arrived at her new house with an articulated lorry of plants. So you can find out why she's so nervous a little bit later on. So all that and more to come on the podcast. Do you want to start, though, with your jobs for the week ahead, all importantly?
Now in the Happy Garden.
Oh, I say, sweetie, this is my favourite bit. Time for Darren to be absolutely flabulous and regale us with his gardening jobs for the week ahead.
Well, yes. 2 and a 1 and go.
Well, how about potting up some petunias and some bedding busy lizzies for a greenhouse decoration display for the summer folks rather than keeping them outside? Why not keep a few in the greenhouse and just have a nice little display? Continue to feed your greenhouse plants and water them well and damp down your greenhouse on hot days, folks. It's really, really important that you keep that humidity, which is water in the air. So perhaps once an hour, pop outside, just sprinkle some water onto the pavement in your greenhouse, and that'll keep it nice and humid. Spray any grapevine with your proprietary rose spray if you think mildew is starting to affect it. House plants can be repotted now, and plant out your tomatoes, your chili peppers, your cucumbers and sweet peppers. And if not already done, make sure that you are given a good feed to increase that rapid growth. Also, plant out tender vegetables such as sweet corn and tomatoes and runner beans.
Slipping that in.
Well,
at
I
the
get
end.
that one in.
Shoehorn the beans in.
Shoehorn it in.
Right at the end. Well, we'll do some more jobs for the week ahead in a bit. I need to do some bean talk with you later.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's get to a question that was left for you on the Happy Garden podcast Facebook page this week, Darren.
Oh, yeah.
From Karen. Darren.
Yeah. Karen.
That's really not even funny, is it? The fact that
No,
the fact it rhymes doesn't really warrant this level of tittering. Anyway, so Darren, Karen left a question about wisteria.
She did, yeah, you're
Yeah, it was a few days ago, and it was a beautiful picture of a beautiful arch with a beautiful amount of wisteria, but it was all greenery. And Karen said, Darren, could you give me some advice on wisteria? I'm so tempted to cut this down after 7 years. I've had no flowers, just lots and lots of leaves. Now, I know you did reply, God love you, on the Facebook page because of the Chelsea special last week, and we couldn't reply until this podcast comes out on the Friday. So I know you've replied, but for those that didn't see the Facebook page, what would the advice be? All foliage, no flowers.
Well, first of all, wisterias take a long time to settle in. So it can be up to 7 years, actually, before they actually start to settle down and actually produce flowers. So that's the first thing. You have to bear with them. You know, we're impatient gardeners, aren't we, folks? But you do have to bear with them. Secondly, I asked Karen if she'd pruned it at all. And thirdly, is she feeding it? Because overfeeding can be a problem as well, because if you're overfeeding them, again, they're not settling in and you're giving them too much. And there was a picture with it on Facebook, folks, and it was lots of lush leafy green growth. So and the ground conditions could be high in nitrogen, which eventually will deplete, but actually it might take 3 or 4 years for that to actually subside. So that could have been the problem. Now Karen came back and said, I prune it every year, twice a year. And what she's doing is she's pruning out the flowering shoots. So she needs to leave it alone. Okay, so just let it go and then prune out. Start that pruning regime once it's finished flowering. So let it flower, and then you take it back by 5 buds after flowering during the autumn, and then late winter you take it back by another 2 buds. That's the way, folks, you'll control the size and the flowering of your wisteria, and that's what Karen needs to do. So she's tried ever so much to actually to prune out the wisteria, but actually she's pruning out the wrong shoots, and that's why it's big and bushy as well, because she's pruning it back and it's just gone absolutely haywire because it's just reacting to the pruning that's taking place. So actually, Karen, what I didn't say to you on the Facebook page is you could thin it through if you wanted to. Just get in there and thin it out, okay? Because there can be thugs. Wisterias can be thugs if you don't control them, and I think that little archway you've got it on could almost be swamped in the next few years, and they can just tear them apart. They can just tear archways apart unless it's metal. Timber archways, they can just wrap around them and just rip them to pieces. I've seen that happen a number of times. So my advice to Karen would be, number one, don't prune it, especially at flowering times. Number two, do thin it out during the winter months. So during the winter months, when you can see all of the shoots, Karen, bring it down a little bit and thin it through, even down to 6 or 7 main stems, and start again with it. And then let it flower, and then start that pruning regime, back to 5 buds after flowering, then late winter, back to another 2. And that's the way you control the size and the flowering of your wisteria. Okay. There you go, Moles.
Yeah,
What to
brilliant.
do.
Great. Karen, thanks ever so much for your question. And I was going to say, let us know if it works, but you probably have to get in contact in about 18 months, I'd have thought. It'd been quite a long process, but yeah, good advice. Darren, I bought a white wisteria yesterday, only small, probably its first year.
Yeah.
I haven't got a white one, and I'll tell you what I'd like to do with it. And I saw it at a garden centre a few months ago, a wisteria umbrella.
Yeah.
So the metal stands there are quite pricey. I mean, you know, you're talking 50 quid or so. I'm not quite sure where to get one from, though. But this little wisteria is only tiny. It's only a couple of foot tall. But yeah, these metal umbrellas, so you grow it up and then it sort of cascades down like a huge umbrella. I'm assuming it's going to take a few years to flower, is it, if you've got a youngster?
Yeah, and it will do. Like I said to Karen, it might take up to 7 years to actually produce flowers.
No, forget it. I'm changing it for a clematis. No.
See what I mean about the comments? Impatient gardeners, folks. Well, it's just gone stuff that.
Yeah, forget that.
Been waiting that long.
Oh, blimey, yeah, 7 years. But if you have got the patience, then that's I think the umbrella idea is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, you can buy them. I mean, you can buy them already grown. They're not that expensive, actually, if you buy them already grown. So you can buy them already grown. You could ask me for my wholesaler.
Oh, well, I could. Well, I got
put
mine.
you in touch.
Like a middle-aged person. It was bank holiday yesterday, so we went down B&Q because it was 20% off. It was 15 quid for a tiny one.
That's all right.
What are you talking then for established?
Well, established, you might be paying above £100, but actually,
no.
it's done and dusted for you.
Well, I know, but think how many frazzles you could buy for a ton. Come on,
Quavers.
Darren. Or quavers. Any party food, really. Oh, dear. Right, before we get on to Karen talking about opening her garden for National Garden Scheme, which we'll do next, I want to squeeze in a couple of bean threads. Now, at Chelsea, and it was on the BBC coverage, the wonderful 2 women who are called, well, their company is called She Grows Veg. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They are an heirloom seed company. They did win gold at Chelsea. And I bought some beans, 1,500-year-old beans. That's sort of the heritage. Absolutely fascinating. These have been bred from a handful of ancient dried beans that were found in an archaeological cave dig, and apparently they were sealed in an airtight pot 1,500 years ago. Would you believe they germinated when they planted, and they've stayed true to form, hence now they're an heirloom variety. And I bought a pack and I planted 3 today. Quite excited.
Prehistoric beans.
Prehistoric beans. But also on the back of that, I thought, you know, you and I planted the 1984 beans that I bought from a boot sale.
Yeah.
Now, I must have planted mine 2 months ago. Still nothing in my pots. You?
Yeah. We've
What?
got signs of life.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, go on, tell all.
Well, we got little shoots. Some of them have come through, not all of them. So we're still waiting, to be honest, because we ran a trial with the learners. So yeah, some of them are coming through. Yeah, and I think they will make a decent crop. But they're only just about up, I must admit. Because I thought all was lost, but yeah. So
Well, that's interesting.
it does prove that.
The
some
best
of them do
before
come
date.
through.
But it'd be interesting to know, because I planted 3 beans in 3 pots 2 months ago, nothing.
Yeah.
You must sort of work out a percentage of how many beans and how many came through. That would be interesting to know, sort of how, the percentage of 40-year-old beans.
We did all of the ones. We did all of the ones that you gave us.
Oh, which was like 40 or
I
so,
can't-
a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we can work out a percentage.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Right, enough of the bean talk. Let's hear from Karen. Now, lovely listener Karen put on the Happy Garden podcast Facebook page ages ago that she was really nervous because she was opening her garden for NGS. We will repost her pictures on our Facebook page so you can see her garden. I don't know what she's nervous about because it's absolutely beautiful. So let's hear from Karen. I started by asking her when she first thought of actually getting involved with NGS.
Well, I didn't, but the lady that renovated the barn we live in with her husband, since about the first year we moved here, because when we moved in, they just obviously put lawn down, but we moved with like a whole articulated lorry of plants from our last garden. And after the first year, she said, will you open your garden and I'll open mine? And I said, no. And that carried on for like another 2 years. And then just before Christmas, she said, we've only got like a week to enter, otherwise it's the cut-off date. And I said, oh, go on then. So we did
nagging.
it. And then I went, oh God, because she's got... Melanie's got 40 acres of garden, beautiful building, really nice place to have your coffee. Mine's the drive to have my coffee. So if it's raining, it's
get
sort
wet.
of...
I have to go back just one step, Karen. Did you say you arrived with an articulated lorry
Yeah.
of plants? Did you dig everything up before you moved?
Yes.
Excellent.
Before we put the house for sale, I said, anything that's in the pot is going. And to be honest, I hope they're not listening, but I have seen the garden. People have sent me pictures and they've like paved it all.
Oh no. Oh, thank goodness it all came with you.
Dug the front garden up, so I'm glad I did it. But yeah, I put everything in pots, and when the removal men came, first of all, it was the first lorry with the furniture, and this, you've got a real book problem. And then the second day, the plant lorry came, and they said, oh, good God.
Excellent. So you finally said yes to your friend with NGS, which leaves you or left you how much time to get ready? What were the time constraints to saying yes to your doors are about to be flung open?
I think it was August that the couple came round that do the Devon part. And obviously they come around and have a look and decide. I mean, my problem was it's not that big, and how many people do you have, because you don't know. And then so from August they said yes, and then I'm opening it at the end of June. What I didn't realise was I said to my friend afterwards, so which day are you opening? And she said, oh, I'm opening for 8 days.
How many are you doing?
One.
Oh, you're just
one.
It's the one-off special.
I'm just doing the one to see how it goes.
To dip your toe in. Well, describe your garden, Karen. You have sent me the most beautiful before and after photos, which we'll put on the Happy Garden Podcast Facebook page. For anyone who doesn't do Facebook, just give us a little bit about your garden's history, then its journey with you.
Well, I don't really know. I'm not very good with widths and whatever. It's not that big. It's really not that big. But I've kind of split it into 2 halves. So the greenhouse is sideways on in the middle, and my husband works in a log cabin, which is right at the end of the garden. So from the front of the garden, you can only really see halfway. Mainly, I just like flowers. I grow cut flowers for sale. And I just like bunging everything in and see what happens. And if it's not any good, I take it out. So it's very, very full, quite cottagey, I suppose. I've got a few trees, not massive, obviously. Not a lot of grass, and it's getting smaller. And we've got like a wiggly, windy path made out of recycled tyres. They're like stepping stones that lead you up the path to the log cabin. And then beside the log cabin, which you can't see, is kind of like where I grow some of my cut flowers, but I grow lots more in a friend's garden because they've got quite a big garden. So yeah, that's about it. It's got hedges. It's very rural. We've got cows at the back of the garden. I put in copper beech all the way around. That was my first thing that I did. And I just like it a bit quirky. I've got a few quirky things in there. I've got an old rusty rocking chair, wrought iron rocking chair that I found in a skip. That's got plants coming out of it. Things like that. because it was a farm before, there was a lot of rusty, what do you call it, like corrugated iron sheet around, which I quite like. So it's rusty in places and sort of silvery in others, and all worn at the edges. So I've got some of that on like the side of the log cabin and the side of the greenhouse. All my fences and my greenhouse, which some people might not like, and the log cabin is all black. But I like that because it shows up the flowers more. And with the copper, not copper, the tin on the side, it just looks really nice. Well, I think anyway. But it's just a nod back to it used to be a farm.
So you're opening in June. How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm glad it's June and not now. Yeah, I mean, I've watched my friend she's opened hers since April. And she was beside herself in April, obviously, because it was still raining. Nothing had grown particularly. But to be honest, loads of people who really love gardens came and said it was beautiful. I mean, she does have 40 acres and a stunning lake and woodlands and things.
Oh, wow.
But it's been quite nice. She's only a couple of miles up the road. Quite nice helping with that and watching people, because I think if you're really interested in gardens, you'll go whether it's raining or not. Like she had beautiful magnolia trees. Well, the wind came and took them all off, but people get that. But I'm told because I've got a small garden, I might be really busy. I did say how busy, because how do you know cake-wise and whatever?
Or are you doing cake?
Yeah, well, I'm not. My husband will be.
God love Mr. Karen.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, so you get lots of volunteers to make cakes for you and stuff. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, actually.
Are you going to be part of the walk round a village or your local area? Are you one of many gardens opening in your area?
No.
Oh,
no,
people are just coming to
me.
you?
Yeah, it's just me and Melanie up the top. So I was joking with her and I said, if I get really, like, I might be sat here like Billy No Mates, but if I get like 300 people, don't joke. I'll put my NGS bright yellow sign out in the road, because hers is only up the road, but sort of 2 miles, but she is kind of like a neighbour. I said, I'll just put cancelled on the big yellow sign and divert them all up to you.
This way.
I'm only joking, but it's like plan B.
You'll have to get Mr. Karen to stand out in a sandwich board in the road.
I've got my friend who works in the post office who knows everyone, so she'll stand out there.
Brilliant.
She can be Mrs. Hitman. Sorry, no room. I just have visions. I mean, I'm going to open up my husband's log cabin and put flower-related stuff in there, because I think, well, I need all the room I can get if there's going to be lots of people. So might be standing room only, who knows. But that's the only thing that worries me. The garden doesn't particularly worry me, but not knowing how many people quite frightens me, really.
We had George Plumtree, CEO of the NGS. We've had him on the show many times. Yeah, he's such a lovely guy. And last time we spoke to him about NGS this year, he was saying, and this will happen to you, Karen, plants and garden and inspiration. No, this is a really good thing. Everything aside, you as the owner most likely will meet some mates. You'll probably make horticultural friends for life and have a real giggle with everybody who comes over, which is just lovely.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really nice helping up at my friends. I mean, somebody appeared in a bright yellow, is it a Beetle, the car?
Nice,
with bright yellow with white flowers all over it.
Oh.
it just looked really good turning up to a garden open day. and people have got some really nice stories as well, haven't they? And, it's just nice. Yeah,
you're going to have a real giggle. Do you want to put out exactly where and when on the podcast, or not?
I don't know. Yes, if you like.
Go on then.
Do you want me to say it now?
Yeah, go on.
It's the old, I might regret this. It's the old granary, North Road, Bradworthy, EX22 7QS.
She says quickly, hoping no one hears.
Standing room only. Or I may just be sat there in the rain.
Karen, it's going to be brilliant. Listen, can we catch up with you the other side? I'll give you I'll give you a week to calm down.
I'm still alive.
But we'll catch up with you on the other side of your opening, and I bet you, I promise you'll be jubilant, and you'll have a few tales to tell. Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks,
right,
Karen.
then.
Good luck.
Thank you. Bye.
The lovely Karen talking to me a week or so ago. Isn't she brave, Darren?
It's brilliant, Karen, and just have the courage of your convictions. Really, what a fabulous thing to do. Really, and remember, we've supported NGS for a long, long time, haven't we,
Yeah.
Molly? Through our VVC days, because we used to do profiles of gardens for every month that were open. Everything's for charity, remember, folks. And Karen is so brave to take this on, but it'll be such a special thing for you, Karen. It'll be something that you'll never, ever, ever forget in a good way. I know lots of people that do this for NGS, and I think the benefit for them is meeting lots of new people
Yeah.
and sharing what the issues and the problems that you've had with other people that have got the same issues and problems. And I'm talking horticultural problems here, not personal ones. Okay.
It's not marriage
But
counselling or anything.
well, you could do, couldn't you? Perhaps you can do that in her husband's
In the
log
shed,
cabin as she was
yeah.
in the shed. But yeah, I think it's absolutely fabulous that she's doing this, and I'm sure you'll do it for many, many more years to come. And it doesn't matter whether you've got a small garden, large garden. There's something to be found in anything, any of these gardens that open, folks. And I really enjoy going around and just having a really good nose. And obviously, there's normally a cup of tea and a piece of cake, isn't there?
course,
Yeah.
yeah.
And some people have plants for sale, and you can pick things up for that. So if you're a plantaholic, or if you just want to have a good nose around and pick up, tips and hints from people that are actually really doing the job. They've got their own garden space to garden with. They've got their own problems to deal with, and you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and you can talk to these folks. And that's what Karen will actually give to the folks that turn up for her garden. And I'm sure, Karen, you'll be overwhelmed with the support that actually comes on your single day. And I'm sure it'll inspire you to open for more than one day next year.
She
Well
won't.
done.
She won't need that sandwich board that says cancelled. She won't. I've said to you before, we're not far from quite a big village. And of course, I don't know everybody in the village. And my husband and I went round, I think there was 17 gardens open. In fact, it was just before COVID, actually. So it was probably 5 years ago, 17 gardens open. And not only did we meet, a lot of our tribe, our horticultural tribe, but we met people in the village we'd never ordinarily have met. So we actually made some friends that we still keep in touch with now, just because we went to visit their garden. Wouldn't have met them otherwise. So really nice if you go local to meet neighbours that you might not ordinarily meet.
Totally. And, don't worry about the weather. I mean, here's an example. I mean, it's not an open garden, but last Wednesday I did what was called the Nurture Garden Open Day. We did a workshop from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, what we do on the Nurture Garden, Molly, is we get people in touch with nature. So it's run at Winterbourne, and we get folks together. And what we do is we talk about how we relate to nature and how nature can relate to us. But the main thrust of the whole day is to get out there and hug trees. I get them to remove their shoes and socks.
Nice.
And we stand on the lawn. Then we lie down in a circle and we just lie there and we just listen to nature for about 10 minutes. So if you remember what last Wednesday was like, it was absolutely hammering it down
Biblical.
all day.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, Noah had got the ark out, hadn't he? Because it was absolutely. And I thought nobody's going to turn up for this today, and 8 out of the 12 turned up, and we still did all those natural things in the wet. I'm telling you, we still.
I bet that enhanced it, didn't it?
It was fabulous, fantastic, because Winterbourne's got a babbling brook. It was absolutely gushing. So when we were listening to nature, you got the gush of the brook, you got birds singing. Because it was such a horrible day, really, there was nobody in the garden. So we were all on our own. So it's absolutely fabulous. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. Got soaking wet.
Brilliant.
Actually, they got in touch with nature.
Yeah, literally.
Contacting nature, touching, feeling. It really, really relaxed them, chilled them out. So, Karen, don't worry. If it throws it down with rain, there are people out there that will still come. Come what may.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know, you've inspired me. I fancy that. Next time it absolutely chucks it down, I'm going to take my shoes and socks off and
walk
go
on
go
turf.
out walking on the lawn.
Yeah, yeah.
What a
And
lovely
just feel
idea.
it through your feet. It's wonderful.
Well, no, Darren, because I'm doing No Mo 2024, it'll be up to my knees that get wet. I mean, that'll be lovely.
Well, Excellent. Well, go out in your pants. That's what you need to do.
Hello? I'll do it if you do it, Darren.
Well, I'll do it.
I know you
I'll be out there
will.
in my boxers.
Good luck, Karen. We'll catch up with you in a few
Yeah.
weeks' time. And talking of NGS, it was lovely when I was down at Chelsea. There is one picture on the Facebook page of this, Darren. The RHS awarded the Elizabeth Medal of Honour to George Plumtree, our good friend, the CEO of the NGS. Wow. And he received his EMH medal from Keith Weed, who is president of the RHS.
Yeah.
Keith Weed. And it was presented at a special presentation on the RHS Britain in Bloom 60th anniversary garden at Chelsea. It was just spectacular. Mary Berry was looking on. But as I said, there's a picture of that on the podcast Facebook page.
Well done, George. Well deserved. Well deserved. He's a lovely man. I've done some garden talks for George for the society as well. So absolutely fantastic guy. Really, really lovely guy. So well deserved.
You're listening to the Happy Garden podcast with Molly Green and Darren Rudge. Gardening's answer to sapphire and steel. Or ant and deck. Either way, I can't tell which one is which.
Now, you know, Penny Pickering came on about her hydroponic system maybe about 3 weeks ago on the pod, Darren. You were stalling the virtues of how good hydroponics are. And she put a picture on the Happy Garden podcast Facebook page of her dog, Penny Pickering's dog.
Penny Pickering's dog?
Yeah, it's called Ronnie.
Ronnie?
She's called her dog Ronnie Pickering. So when it's...
Ronnie...
When she goes to the vet literally sticks his head out the door and says, Ronnie Pickering, please.
Come on, who are you then?
Ronnie Pickering.
Who?
Ronnie Pickering.
Who?
Ronnie Pickering.
He is a viral entity. A viral entity, Ronnie Pickering. Anyway, thank you, Penny. One more thing before we hear from Stan and Vicky of Chelsea Gold fame. Rupert, now our lovely listener Rupert. Oh, I haven't sent you the picture actually, Darren. Have you got your phone by you?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on 1 second. Here we are. Oh, yeah, there we go. Let me send you this. There we are. You should have that. Rupert sent a picture of his rose, and it says, Molly, Darren, I took this rose cutting 3 years ago. It's grown really, really well. No flowers. He's going to call it Molly's tumble after my fall at Chelsea. But 3 years on, and he took it from a cutting, so he's hesitant to let that one go. But is there anything he should do? It's just to describe the picture. It's long, it's tall, it's kind of single stemmed. It's maybe 2 foot tall, but no flowers so far after 3 years. Any advice, Daz?
Well, you could try giving it a little bit of feed with high potash, because that's there for, high potassium, high potash, same thing, same difference. Because you feed plants for potash for fruits and flowers. So you can try that. But again, it's a young plant. So, it might not produce any flowers. It might just be settling in. And again, if there's high nitrogen around its roots, then it'll just produce leafy growth for a little bit of while until that nitrogen depletes. Now, nitrogen in the soil, folks, does deplete from the soil quite quickly, can leach out of the soil as well as being eaten by plants. But it's a sure sign of leafy growth that there's high nitrogen in the soil. So it could be that. Try high potassium feed and see whether that actually gets it to produce some flower buds for you. But I think you've done really well to get it to strike a cutting and actually get that to grow. And it looks fairly healthy to me. So I wouldn't be worried too much by the fact that it hasn't produced any flowers yet. It's just settling in. We're really impatient as gardeners. And, when we buy our roses, they're normally 3 or 4 years old when you buy them in the pot. You get them into the ground, and yes, they're settling, but they've normally got buds all ready to go, haven't they, that are going to flower. So just bear with it a little bit. Just bear with it, and you've done really well. And I'm sure it'll produce flowers for you as time goes by.
All right, let us know, Rupert. And I'm glad you're alive.
Yeah.
As Darren and I record this, I know by the time this podcast comes out, we might have some really good weather. I think the beginning of June is supposed to be nice. But as we record this, we've got thunderstorms wafting around. We've had warnings and all sorts for thunderstorms. And Rupert's been struck by lightning 4 times.
Wow.
Twice in the car.
Somebody's trying to tell you something, Rupert.
No. Twice in the car, once in Wellies, I think once fishing, and once was at a fete. In a field at a fete. But he's survived, so I know he's keeping his head down for the next couple of days. But lovely to
Sorry,
hear.
Rupert.
Sorry, Rupert. Lovely to hear from you, and thank you very much for the question. Now, let's hear from Stan and Vicky. As you've heard, I was down at Chelsea at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show 2024. Met our very good friends Stan and Vicky there from Craighouse Cacti in West Brom. And when I saw them, they hadn't yet been judged, but we since know they have won gold. So I spoke to them a little bit earlier on today, and I started by congratulating them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, last time you and I caught up with Vicky as well, you were preparing for it. You were all ready, you were confident, and all that confidence has come off.
Yeah, thankfully it has. So now we're on the big sort out now to get ready for Gardeners World Live.
Of course, yeah, that's in a couple of weeks up the road, isn't it, at the NEC?
Yeah.
Well, talk me through. Last time you and I saw each other was at Chelsea on the press day at Monday when we were all together having a chat, and you hadn't been judged yet. So the following morning, when you were allowed into the flaps to see what medal had been left on your stall, talk me through that.
Well, it was really good, really.
It was a relief.
Just a relief, yeah, it was.
We never assumed.
We never assume that we're going to get a gold. We always work hard to sort of give it our best. And it's paid off again, thank goodness.
How many gold medals is that now?
12.
Wow. Absolutely magnificent. Did you get to see the King when the royalty do their walkabout in the afternoon? Because I know on your website there's pictures of you with our late Queen. How did it go with the royals?
I did see the King, but not to actually meet this year. I met him last year, which I was really pleased about, but I didn't manage it this year. But, you know, it's give somebody else a chance, really.
Yeah, but you were saying, Vicky, that you were in the wrong place. The King was in the wrong place. Goodness knows what was going on, but you did meet.
Yes, we did. Yeah, he looked well, considering. You know, I mean, I was quite close to him anyway. But yeah, I did manage to see them, which is basically all I expected to do this year. I didn't expect to meet him again because that won't happen. But yeah, it was a good royal visit by the seam of it. They seemed to be enjoying it, him and the Queen. I only saw the Queen briefly because she was doing other things. But yeah, it was good.
Do you know if they saw your display?
I should imagine the King did because he was actually up in our area. But whether he did or not, it was because it was on the way out. So he may have just been, you know, chatting with his entourage, as it were. So he may not have done. And then again, he might. I don't know. But plenty of celebs saw it.
Oh, like who? Who came to see you?
We had Jason Manford, Jessica Ennis-Hill, Carol Kirkwood, of course, because we've known her a long time. All the Gardeners World presenters,
they came along.
Yeah. A lot were more interested in my hair than the plants. But never mind.
Your hair was magnificent, though. You had braided it to perfection, Vicky.
Yeah, I can't take credit for it. Yeah, but no, we had a lot of interest. Yeah, it was good. The public was so lovely because we were actually featured on the Gardeners World programme on the Tuesday evening with Carol Klein. And I mean, that was a complete laugh to do that with her. I've never laughed so much with her over the years we've known her. How we got through the interview, I do not know. But it went out on the Tuesday night. And after that, people were just coming and saying, we saw you on the telly, can we take your photographs? And, oh, you came across really well and all that. So it was good, just those few seconds. You know, it makes such a difference.
Well, absolutely.
I think we'll have to start charging for it.
What, for photographs?
Yes, 50p a time. Yeah, fantastic. Well, now Chelsea has come and gone, 2024. Yes, looking ahead to Birmingham's NEC, Gardeners World Live. Are you going to replicate your gold-winning display at the NEC?
Well, it'll be very similar, but some of the plants will be rested and new ones added into the display. So it does change with the season.
And we will find you in the floral marquee again, won't we?
Of course you will.
Yeah,
of course
usual spot.
Of course we will. Listen, for people who want to get into cacti, because, we've spoken before about it being the new black. Everybody seems to love cacti at the moment. I know you offer an awful lot of advice. Just give us your website.
CraigHouseCacti.co.uk.
And congratulations again from all of us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stan and Vicky from Craighouse Cacti in West Brom. They did good again, Darren. Gold medal winners again.
Brilliant. And their display is always fun. I like the waistcoats.
Yeah.
I think they're brilliant. Every year it's different, isn't it?
They are
But absolutely fabulous. I wonder if they keep them. I wonder if they've got a wardrobe with them all in.
Oh, no doubt, yeah. Cacti wardrobe. Well, listen, Vicky mentioned the Gardener's World live show, which is coming to the NEC very, very shortly, which, of course, Darren is featuring at, which we shall talk about after we've had a few adverts. Don't go anywhere. Still lots to come in part 2 of the Happy Garden podcast. Lots more gardening questions. We're going to hear from Paul from Buglife about what to find in your wildlife-wise, what to find in your garden in June. As I say, questions for Darren. Darren's final sow and grow slot as well. Lots more to come. Stay there. Back in a tick. Welcome back to part 2 of the Happy Garden podcast. Or, Darren, should I say, as we do have new listeners in Oslo this week, Norway, should I say, velkommen tilbake? Now, just before the advert, Stan and Vicky from Craighouse Cacti were saying, now Chelsea's out of the way, then Gardeners World Live is the next big show across the UK. Very proud to say it's right up our end into our Dazzler, and something that you've got a big part in again this year.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm Rudge the Judge.
Yes.
And then I'll be there on Thursday and Sunday this year betwing VIP tours.
Oh, now we've had listeners trying to specifically book you, so you're going to be ever so busy.
Yeah, VIP tours. You get in before the show's open, and I'll show you around. I'll give you a grand guided tour, folks, so you can book in advance. We might even give you a little bit of champagne or some Prosecco.
Prosecco. And
a few
strawberries. I thought they might.
Oh
feature.
no, Andy Lown might be around. Oh no. You could see him in his velvet matinee jacket with his cream. Hello, darling.
Oh, love him. God love Randy Lound. Oh, we must get him on shortly. He's doing the horticultural history of the shed. But listen, by the time this goes out, there will still be time to book tours with you at Gardeners World. And even if they don't book tours, you'll still be you're one of the experts, aren't you?
Still got a couple of weeks. Yeah, I'll be on the expert stand as well. So you can come and bring in your bit of detritus, and I'll try and identify it for you and give you some advice. Yeah. Just look for the big picture of me. That'll show you where I'll be.
Is it the one of you in a blue shirt in the field?
No, I don't know which one they'll use actually.
Okay.
Because you see, last year they took some
shots
at
done.
me. Yeah. I had to
headshots.
tease the camera and things.
You should have rung Andy Lound.
I didn't like it when he told me to open my buttons on my shirt. And just to rub some baby oil in.
Oh, stop there now. That's not what happened at all, Darren. All right, grand. Right, let's move on to a question from P of Positivity Joe. Now, Molly, Darren, I've planted some cosmos, as the bees do love them. I've thrown the empty packet away, so I'm not sure when I should pop them in the ground. And P.S., will you and Darren be at Gardeners World this year? Yes, Joe. But cosmos, when should they go in?
Right now. Get them in, Joe. Get them in. Get them into the ground right now. This week with our students, what we've done is we planted out bedding, would you believe, because it's last week in May. Okay, and I probably owe Molly a fiver, don't I?
That's next on the list to talk about.
But get them into the ground now. You know, I think you're quite safe to get them out there. Get them into your pots, get them into the ground, and get them growing on. And if they're a bit leggy, cut them back, okay? Because what happens if you keep them inside is they go all leggy, don't they? So just give them a quick cut back, take them back by a quarter. Remember, just above a leaf joint, if you can do, snip them just above a leaf joint, and that'll cause them to bush out. And instead of you having a single stalk with one flower, you'll have multiple stalks with multiple flowers. There you go. Job done. Tick in the box.
You've changed your tune, Rudge. And you also owe me £5. £5.
You know that's going to hurt our home budget.
Oh,
We
don't.
don't get paid for this. I mean,
yeah, I'm
that means
painfully
I
aware
can't-
we don't get paid for this podcast, Darren. Painfully
cannot
aware.
feed the dog this week if I give you a fiver.
Oh, that's below the belt, Darren. Darren bet me. Oh no, I bet Darren that because you know Darren. He says never cast a cloud till May is out. Nothing can go out until the 1st of June. But I got everything out of the greenhouse a good 3 weeks ago, and you, Darren, bet me £5 there'd be a frost before June, which there won't be. So that's yeah. Oh, well,
You
not
did
if your
admit-
dog's going to go.
But you did admit that you had been attacked by hail on one
Last
occasion.
night, yeah, there was a big hailstorm last night. That's not a frost, though.
And somebody did say, you had been warned.
It did
on
knock
the,
a head off
Facebook.
my peony.
There you go. Head off your
It
peony.
did knock one of the heads off my peony. Oh, and one more thing. There is a PS from Peer Positivity Joe. Hope you're doing well on the Buy Me a Coffee, she said. The Buy Me a Coffee front. We haven't mentioned that for a long time, actually, Darren.
No.
Yeah, Darren can't afford to feed his dog. We don't get paid for the podcast at all. So the only sort of way of supporting us, really, we have a Buy Me a Coffee page on their website. If you just go to, if you Google Buy Me a Coffee and the Happy Garden podcast, it will come up. And it's a £5. If you want to support us and buy us a coffee, it's a £5. And that would be really, really kind. Right, shall we get on to your final Darren Sow and Grow slot?
Yeah. Tomatoes and cucumbers.
All right.
That's what we're doing.
Let's introduce you properly.
My packets of seeds are keen to breed the tins that overflow. But what I need is advice to heed. There's so much I don't know. Tell me what to plant on Mondays. Tell me what to sow on Sundays. Tell me when would be a good day so they shoot up and don't die down. Pitiful.
But the best we could do. Right, I'm going to miss this slot. It's been really, really informative throughout the spring. Right then, Darren, over to you.
Well, cucumbers and gherkins we're going to start with. So, I'm going to concentrate on tomatoes a little bit later on as well. But cucumbers are amongst the crops that taste the best when they're homegrown, folks, as the flavour and sweetness of the fruits is noticeably different to those shop-bought ones. Most cucumbers are climbing plants, meaning one seed produces a big crop from one plant that won't take up much ground space, so it's good if you want to grow something you haven't got a lot of space. Sow cucumber seeds from early spring to early summer, ideally indoors, although they can be sown directly in June. Seeds need a minimum temperature around 20 degrees Celsius to germinate, and the plants will not tolerate frost. Harvest cucumbers then from midsummer to mid-autumn, and gherkins are ready about a month afterwards, after your cucumbers are ready to harvest. Now, the good thing is that you can grow varieties that you don't find in your greengrocers. So availability in the shops bears very little relationship to the richness of options you've got when you grow yourself. Decorative heirloom varieties include crystal apple, crystal lemon, and things for lunch boxes include green fingers, short and smooth-skinned, or cucamelons. So how about patio snacker, which is a lovely little small compact variety. Here's your tips for success then. Cucumbers have a reputation of being a bit tricky to grow, but choosing the right variety can make all the difference. I recommend varieties suitable both indoor and outdoor growing. Look out for the all-female flowering on seed packets, as these will need little extra attention to produce delicious sweet fruits. Tomatoes then. So this month, folks, the plants will mature at the right time for planting once the risk of frost has passed. You can harvest your tomatoes once they have developed their full colour, which is an indication that they're ripe. This will vary depending on the type of tomato you've grown. So what varieties can you get? The same as cucumbers, really. You've got a rich variety if you grow your own, which will never match the diversity of stuff that you can actually grow from seed. So here you go. You can grow big ones called beefsteak, ox heart or marmalade, medium plum or pear-shaped tomatoes, and they also come in colours red, orange, yellow, green, pink and black. Here's your tips for success then. Use companion planting to enhance the flavour of tomatoes and keep pests off them. Basil is said to enhance the flavour, and marigolds prevent the attack of whitefly. Tomatoes fruit best in a sunny position. I often grow mine in pots and put them in the sunniest part of the garden. Just don't forget to keep them watered. And finally, regularly tie in your tomato plants. Otherwise, they are prone to snapping if a big gust of wind comes along. So there you go, folks. Cucumbers and tomatoes. Easy, isn't it, Molly? Easy.
Done. Yeah.
It's simple.
There is nothing nicer. And nothing sadder at the end of the season when you pick your last tomato and cucumber. It is so nice, isn't it, to go outside and pick your salad fresh. Lovely.
And it's true, isn't it? You know, tastes totally different to shop bought.
Yeah, absolutely. About the last 3 or 4 days, I've had a side salad with everything. Literally just hop outside the back door because the veg patch is right by it. And I've got... all grown by Mr. Green, by the way. I can't take credit for this, but spinach leaves, beetroot leaves, salad leaves, just normal lettuce leaves, and radish. Go and pick all of those in a sieve, and they come in every night for a side salad. Lovely.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I'm going to miss your sow and grow slot. What are we substituting with? Is there a harvest, pickling, preserving slot or anything on? We'll have to think, won't we?
We'll have to have a chat. And it's good. But next week, remember, is my foraging slot for June.
Oh, of course.
So we've got a couple of weeks to think about what we can replace and replenish with.
Well,
okay.
we can also stick it out there, can't we? If there's anything that you would like Darren to profile, a little series that you'd like him to do, it's your podcast, so you've been more than welcome to get in touch and let us know any ideas that you have. Yes. Darren, I've really enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, that was smashing. Now let's get the amazing and astounding Andy Lounding onto the Happy Garden podcast. This week, in Andy's Horticultural Histories, it is the history of the shed.
It's Amaze and Astound with Andy Lound. That's me. Good morning, Molly and Darren. We embark on a journey to explore a humble yet integral part of our gardens, the garden shed. Often overlooked, these unassuming structures have a rich history that mirrors the evolution of gardening, craftsmanship, and the changing roles of individuals in society, and harks back to our ancient beliefs. Our story begins in the 18th century, when the concept of a dedicated space for gardening tools and equipment took root. Initially, these structures were more utilitarian, serving a purpose to store tools and protect them from the elements. As gardening became a popular pastime among the British elite, the need for a designated space for horticultural pursuits became more apparent. The Victorian era witnessed a transformation in garden sheds, from purely functional spaces to aesthetically pleasing structures. The idea of the garden as an extension to the home led to the creation of ornate and intricate sheds, often referred to as summer houses or garden follies. These structures reflected the architectural styles of the time and became symbols of status and refinement. The two world wars had a significant impact on the role of sheds. During wartime, many people turned to allotment gardening to supplement their food supply, and sheds became essential for storing tools and cultivating crops. The practicability of sheds as a storage solution was underscored during these challenging times. In the post-war era, the popularity of gardening continued to rise and garden sheds became more commonplace. However, this period saw a shift towards functionality and affordability. Prefabricated sheds made of materials like metal and plastic became popular, catering to the practical needs of the growing number of amateur gardeners. As we move into the 21st century, the garden shed has adapted to the changing needs and lifestyles of gardeners. Today's sheds come into various shapes and sizes and materials, catering to a wide range of preferences and purposes, from traditional wooden sheds that evoke a sense of nostalgia to modern minimalist designs that complement contemporary landscapes. The garden shed has become a versatile and customisable space. In recent years, the shed has evolved from a traditional role as a storage unit to the rise of the she shed and man cave. These have transformed these structures into personal sanctuaries for relaxation, hobbies and creative pursuits. these sheds have become expressions of individuality, reflecting the diverse interests and passions of their owners. And this harps back to an ancient time where men had a small shelter for contemplation, perhaps for personal worship. I was once known as Andy Two Sheds. One was for Astronomical Observatory and one was for my many collections. I had shed loads of them. So, Molly and Darren, more from the potting shed next time.
Very good, Andy. Very good. Thank you very much, Andy Lound. AndrewLound.com is his website if you want to know more about our Andy. And he'll be back next week because we're doing allotments. We're talking about allotments next week on the Happy Garden podcast. So Andy, with his horticultural histories, will have the history of the allotment.
Hello, I'm Caroline Quentin, and you are listening to the Happy Garden podcast. Hooray!
Now, we're not far off, actually, being done with this podcast. We will hear from Paul from Buglife very shortly about insects in the garden in June. Darren, well, it's not a question, actually. It's an accolade for your wonderful advice that you've given on the Facebook page. Hi, Molly, Darren. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful weather. Can I say a big thank you to Darren Rudge for all of his advice on how to bring my lawn back to life. I followed Darren's instructions and we now have an amazing looking lawn, as you can see in the pictures. I wish I'd taken a before picture so you could see the transformation. Keep up the good work, spreading the love for flora and fauna. You're doing a wonderful job, and that is Sprayer Pete. And I actually thought that was a fake lawn, Darren. I messaged him back and said, that's fake, Pete. But no, thanks to your advice, he has an immaculately green lawn.
Well, I mean, it's great because people listen, people do, and look what can be achieved. That's wonderful. Well done. Well done. And now all you've got to do now is just keep it immaculate, haven't you? Aerate, scarify, feed, mow.
Well, thank you for your question, Sprayer Pete. Always lovely to hear from you. Right, let's get Paul Hetherington on from Buglife. Every month on the Happy Garden podcast, we like to have a look at what insects you might find in and around your garden. I spoke to Paul in the week and asked him what we might see in June.
We're going to see most particularly, I suppose, the June bug, as it's called, otherwise known as the chafer beetles. And the most common one, of course, is the cockchafer, and people are always sending in pictures of them for us to identify. But there's some really beautiful ones like the rose chafer, which is a sort of metallic green colour that you'll often find around in your garden. They're very poor flyers, so if you walk particularly through some sort of wooded areas, you'll often get hit on the head by them because they just can't avoid you and they're flying along, and it's quite a bump. And also you might have them bump into your windows if you've got lights on at night and you haven't closed the curtains. So yeah, you'll definitely come across the chafers over this time period. It's really quite a good time for beetles. You'll start to be seeing things like ladybird larvae out, as well as the ladybirds now munching away on the aphids in your garden. And ladybird larvae look so different from ladybirds that people often think they're a completely different species. And indeed, I suppose they're quite similar in appearance to the glowworms. As to how they look, but they often have very sort of spiny backs to them. But yeah, a great friend to the gardener. They're out and about, and then of course, if you're lucky enough to live in that part of the country, this is the kind of time of year when we start to see things like the stag beetles out and about, and they are truly majestic. Our largest beetle, these great sort of, we call them antlers. They're actually their mandibles because the poor things are not able to actually eat. But yeah, absolutely terrific looking things. So it's a great time for beetles. You'll also, of course, see all of the bees out and about, the bumblebees, the solitary bees, tail end of the early solitary bees will still be out and about, pollinating plants everywhere. The bumblebees, of course, extremely important because they carry out what's called buzz pollination. And without buzz pollination, you get no tomatoes, for instance. So really, really important pollinator because nothing else does buzz pollination. We also should start to see a lot more of the butterflies appearing. So far this year, I've only really seen orange tips about, but we should start to see your peacocks and your red admirals around in big numbers. And of course, things like the old cabbage whites.
Do you know, in our garden, Paul, we've had so much of the jack of the hedge or jack in the hedge, whatever you want to call it. And of course, that's a primary laying source, isn't it, for orange tips? So I'm hoping we have an abundance of those in months to come.
Yeah, I've got a large amount of it in my garden as well, which is probably why I've seen so many of them around this year.
Well, like you see, some people might think that's a weed and pull it out, but it is an integral part, isn't it, in the insect chain in the garden?
Yeah, I mean, these things are so important in the same way that nettles are really important, because the majority of your garden butterflies lay their eggs on nettles. So, if you can have a little patch of nettles somewhere, it's not a bad thing to have, because it will help you with butterflies. I guess the thing to do is to, a bit like mint, grow it in a bucket so it can't spread, because that's the big problem with nettles, they spread.
Yeah, absolutely. I must ask you quickly about the weather. I know we touched on it when you talked to us about insects in May. It's kind of stopped raining. I say that, but we've had some really wet days still. How do you think, I mean, you've outlined there's an abundance of insects coming out of the ground and sort of, we'll see in our gardens in June, but do you think numbers might be affected?
I think the weather extremes we've been getting could have a really negative effect on insects, because we did have that lovely sunny hot period, and that encouraged lots of things to start coming out, and some of the things came out a little bit earlier than you'd normally see them. But now we had this torrential rain, and some bugs would have drowned. It would have potentially damaged a lot of the solitary bee nests if the ground nesting solitary bees. So it's had a huge impact. And of course, when you've got rain that heavy, the ones that need to go out and get food, like your pollinators, they can't fly around and get their food. Some of them will just get their wings absolutely drenched, and then they'll be drowned in a puddle. So I think the extremes of weather are going to have a really serious effect. And again, the effect it's having on our rivers and streams. So they're going from being relatively shallow, more sort of their spring, summertime levels. You have this high level of rain, and all of a sudden you've got these big gushes of water. Now this will be dislodging a lot of the things like mayfly larvae, etc., that would be in a river system, and washing them away downstream and potentially out to sea. So I think it's potentially got a very big negative effect. All weather extremes do, because the whole idea is we live in a so-called temperate country where we don't get these extremes.
Also, I see on your website, buglife.org.uk, that you're worried about extreme weather opening floodgates to nature invaders in the UK as well, because our climate seems to be changing. Then non-native plants and insects might be coming.
Yeah, I mean, things can survive over here now that couldn't in the past. I mean, some non-dangerous non-natives, for instance, that have established themselves in sort of Cornwall and Scilly Isles. There's 4 species of stick insect that are now living in the wild.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, they're lovely, beautiful animals, and they don't really affect our food chain. But the point is, they can do that. Lots of other ones can, who could have an impact on our food chain. And of course, one of the ones that a lot of people are worrying about at the moment is the Asian hornets, which have come over here. They're almost certainly breeding over here. But that's more about the fact that they've moved in as an invasive species, because they would have been quite comfortable in our climate before. And if anything, the extremes of climate that we're getting and the warmer, wet winters might be a mitigating factor in keeping them in check.
Asian hornets, obviously, from Asia. Where do stick insects come from, Paul?
Stick insects are found in quite a lot of places around the world, but mainly sort of fairly tropical places.
Right.
So you'll find them in Australasia, you'll find them in parts of Africa, you'll find some on little islands in the Pacific and so forth. So you find them in quite a lot of different places, but they're all what we would consider relatively warm places.
Yeah, but now sort of in the bush outside Asda.
Yeah, effectively.
My goodness. Paul, it is always lovely to catch up with you. We'd urge everybody to have a look at buglife.org.uk. There's lots of sort of press releases. Keep up to date with the news in the UK, insect-wise. And gosh, it won't be any time till we're talking to you about insects in July, Paul. This year's going ever so quickly.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for today. It's always gorgeous to catch up with you.
And you.
Thank you, Paul. Paul Hetherington from Buglife. We'll be hearing from him again soon on the podcast. Well, this podcast, our Dazzler Pants, is almost done. We just got a few jobs for the week ahead with you to do.
I mean, money-saving tip.
What's that on this week? Is it really good?
It's about gardening with underwear.
Oh, go on then, we'll include it. I was about to omit it, but that sounds quite interesting. All right, forget it. Should we do that now then? Oh, Darren, you are funny. Right, hang on a second. Let me find your... Let me find your... Oh, it's always about this point where we both just go mad. We've been sat here that long. Right, let me find your money saving. Hang on. All right, I found it. Should we get your underwear out the way?
Yes.
Now, live on the Happy Garden podcast, it's time for
Darren's money saving tips.
Well, yes. Go, man, go.
So, there's no excuse not to garden, folks, even if you haven't got a garden or you've just got a small space. No problem. Hang out a washing line. You can grow fruit, veg, flowers. How? Well, here's the answer. Your underwear. Don't throw your pants and bras away, Molly. Plant them. The RHS built a bra patch at Hampton Court Palace Flower Show to encourage would-be gardeners, folks, to show what could actually be grown in bras, pants and trousers. The display was made up of more than 200 undergarments hung on 3 10-metre washing lines. Alpine strawberries, tomatoes, herbs were all grown along with pretty, pretty flowers. So don't throw them, your bras, pants and trousers away. Plant them, folks. Here's the proof that they actually work. Go on, I dares you. See what the neighbours think when you put your bras, your pants and your trousers out and start to plant them up with your cucamelons.
WI do that, don't they? They love a filled bra.
Yeah, braskets. They're brilliant. Or, they make excellent bird feeders, don't they?
Do you want to do a brasket masterclass? Because I've got some good pictures of you.
Yes. Yeah. I'll do a brasket masterclass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stick that down. Right, that was good. I'm glad that we did include that. That was fun. Right, do you want to do your jobs for the week ahead? And then we'll do...
Of course.
Yes, and then we'll... And then you and I, dear listener, what happens when we're done with the podcast is Darren and I have to do the flipping trailer for this podcast.
Takes longer than the podcast.
We've been recording for an hour and a half now, and it's probably about 1:45 to do the 30-second trailer. Let's finish with some jobs for the week ahead.
Now in the Happy Garden.
Oh, I say, sweetie, this is my favourite bit. Time for Darren to be absolutely flabulous and regale us with his gardening jobs for the week ahead.
Well, yes. 2, 1, go, man, go.
So it's important to keep ahead of the weeds, folks, by hoeing. While they're still small, especially after you've had a few days' rain, because they're easier to pull out as well. Thin out vegetables that may have reached a suitable size and control weeds around them, obviously. Repeat sow vegetables that you perhaps sown earlier in the year, things such as lettuce, peas and carrots. And there's still time to sow Savoy cabbage varieties for winter and early spring use. Now continue regular mowing and feed the lawn right now, as well as aerate and scarify. If you wish to control lawn weeds, then apply a lawn weed killer and a moss killer. Bedding plants should be planted out right now, okay, as long as the weather's not too cold.
Oh, come on, you owe me a £5 and you know you do. Cough
I'll
up,
just
Rudge.
slip it in there.
Fabulous. Right, lovely podcast. Thank you so much. It's been really nice being back with you this week. Next week, I thought we might do an allotment special on the Happy Garden podcast. I met the most lovely man, Darren, a few weeks ago called Bob, who is at a local allotment, and he's been there 59 years, coming up 60 years on the same plot at the same allotment. And he really, really extols the virtues of the allotment, of the community spirit, of the, sharing education and knowledge. And it's just amazing. And lots of people have been in touch on the podcast Facebook page as well about their allotment. So I thought we might do a little bit of a special. Feel free to let us know about yours on the Happy Garden podcast Facebook page. That would be smashing.
Oh, it'll be brilliant. And remember, folks, get out there and gardening. No excuse not to now. The weather's warmed up and I've got to get a fiver to Molly Green somehow.
Yes, you do. So somehow. I'll take a bank transfer. That's not a problem at all. What are you doing this week anyway? Have you got further teaching underway this week?
No, it's half term for me this week. But I am designing a planting scheme for my very special windmill garden, you see. So it's top secret. Not allowed to tell you about it.
Well, you put pictures on the Facebook page there, Darren. Thinking about it. You would not make a good spy. Well, that's about it for the podcast this week. It has been gorgeous being back with you, Darren. Pleased to have you back with me. Next week, I think we're looking at allotments.
Yeah, allotments are great, aren't they? They're absolutely fantastic, lovely community. So it's going to be brilliant looking at allotments.
It is, and Randy Lound is going to be looking at the history of the allotments, and I'm going to be introducing...
It's a good job we're not doing this on stage, isn't it? Just keep corpsing.
Oh dear. We're going to meet Bob next week on the podcast. I had the pleasure of meeting Bob a few weeks ago on the allotment that he has been on for nearly 60 years. He's had the same plot, same allotment, same plot for 59 years. And we would love to hear from you about your allotment as well. You're more than welcome to get in touch. All the ways coming your way very shortly when we've finished the pod and said goodbye, which I will let Darren Rudge do. I'm going to leave the end of this podcast to you.
Get out there in your garden, folks. Enjoy your garden spaces. Look forward to the allotment special next week and have fun. Most of all, have fun. See you next Friday.
You've been listening to the Happy Garden Podcast with Molly Green and Darren Rudge. If you'd like to send them an email, get in touch with the Happy Garden Podcast by emailing thehappygardenpodcast@gmail.com. Follow them on social media. Just search for the Happy Garden Podcast. Can we say Happy Garden Podcast just one more time? The Happy Garden Podcast.